I'd show you the sample I made for the latest quotation. Here's the sample I made. So that shows steel flexi conduit, plastic 20mm PVC white conduit, a rather nice through box and domed lid, a cable grip, and the lamp holders. It also shows a number of cables available, and then what I've done is I've priced all those options. So I've said 1150 with the plastic option for the cheapest, and the most costly option £1,404 plus bulbs, that's plus the lamps. I've just basically priced everything, and then I went over to the client or prospective client and showed it to him. So this is Sati, and he's got a very nice smile, but he doesn't have the keys. So he doesn't have the keys.
Hello everyone on YouTube.
And this is Zani?
Zara.
Zara.
We're rocking Zara. Zara from the Sahara.
Right, I noticed it's gone out of focus again.
From the best fish and chip shop in Littlehampton.
Beach Road, come see us.
What we need to show them.
So fresh fish.
Have a look at that. All the chips.
So don't tell anybody.
One of my my videos that 19 people view, not 6. So yeah, so here we are. The this stuff I really like. I've used it in my workshop, and I'm gonna go and use quite a lot of this stuff anyway in the restaurant. So going behind the heater here, this is a far infrared heater, and the cable I just take up through there. Although I have used Twin and Earth in this instance. Hello, am I out of focus? Am I out of focus? Probably I am. And probably getting another good picture of my neck. I'm just on my way to a potential customer who had his work done by somebody else and is a bit concerned about his paperwork. It's a bit. So anyway, so this is what you get one of these. Exactly like this. This is a BS7671 safety certificate. Yeah. And the important bit there is you'll also have more of these lines that he pays to get this sent to you when he's applying for it. That's the important one as well. Yep, that's it, and then you're all set. You're all set. I always forget how to say your name. Seth, isn't it?
Seth.
Seth.
Yeah. So you're recording me?
Yeah, I am.
Without my permission?
Oh. So on the bookcase, I've got a couple of Latin textbooks, fire alarm stuff, stuff for my son, guidance note 1, complaints book, and admin, know what that is, self-assessment, bills for the office, and invoices. There are no invoices in there because invoices that would be in the safe if it had stuff in it, and qualifications, and then books about ocean liners, and there we go. In the safe, for data protection reasons, I have all my EICRs. I normally have all my my what do they call them? Certificates. So there's certificates there, EICRs there, and invoices. Worksheets and quotes are all on my invoice folder. This is some Schubert Lieder, which I'm singing at the end of the week for Church Fate. And just so you can't see the address there, but this was the invoice for the work I did in Tottenham, which I've only just sent out about a month late. This is a one of my worksheets, so I don't know why it's in here, but oh, these are all estimates. Oh, I do have estimates in here as well. So I have estimates and worksheets together here. So when I'm estimating, this is how they come out. I generally give a breakdown of the, this is a worksheet because I took a copy of electrical installation report, either that or it's mine, for use during remedials. Photographs I take all the time and put into visual observation pack, and there's another worksheet. That's a worksheet, so I do things that get jotted down during and time. And this was for showing where we were going to put lines. That quotation, again, that never got off the ground, that quotation. This quotation here is a breakdown of a schedule for fitting of an RCD, and I've given an example of a fitted RCD separate to the consumer unit, which is what I was trying to explain to him there. And then a breakdown of all the costs, which for him came to £317 there for fitting an RCD, which is quite a lot, but then he had to have bonding and everything else put in. And that wasn't going to be quite so easy. Some more diagrams. This is for probably a sampling diagram for an EICR. This is a diagram from an EICR, so probably, oh, this is a quotation again, because it says quotation at the top here, and I've taken their results just to look them over. That gives me a good guide. That's why it is important to keep your results and keep paperwork with things, because it does help with quotations in the future. So I found this was a big quotation for a complete rewire of a property. So that I went along for, I spent a couple of hours there and did all these drawings, and then I did a breakdown of all the costs, and in fact whether it was ground floor, first floor, ground floor, everything there, and then I totted this up in terms of labour, in terms of what I thought would be hours of labour. I then added them all up and divided them by the number of hours in a day, which is 8, to give the time. Estimate I've given has already been altered, and I've written a confirmatory letter stating what I understood to be the actual agreement between us, but I haven't restated the quotation because he's not really worried. He's got a ballpark figure of the price, the value of the contract or the undertaking, and so he's not so worried about itemising everything as we go along, which I did offer him. So the original rejected quotation because he wanted to make changes to the specification. So flexible conduit, there's 3 rolls of that. I think they're about £37 a roll. So yes, so I've gone 3. So I've gone up a bit. I've gone up and charged a bit more for that. The third one I've charged £34 for. Yeah, £34. So actually, it's not that far off. And then a 2-way box galv. This second figure, the second row of the figures, they're 970 and 1663, gives the price with lamps included. Assuming that the lamps are going to be about £14 each. So the cheap option was this plastic option, which is the 1150 option, and then the expensive option was the steel option, which I priced at 1408 and 4 pence for the particular install that he's going to have. He's no longer going with the 17 of my own through boxes. You're looking at a copy of the letter sent to that prospective customer. I've blanked out his address here though, and it basically just says you have instructed us to provide a new separately switched light circuit at the restaurant and so on. The erection will be single conductors. You have agreed to deal in which the labour charge is halved in return for allowing an acceptable period of notice, so on. That's something to do with our deal. And then a key will be needed for access. So that is the final letter of confirmation of the contract, and if anything in that is different, he can query the letter. And then at the bottom I just have something to do with my terms. Annex Alpha is labour and materials breakdown. Test certificate and building completion certificate are provided. So an annex of the materials breakdown. Here you're looking at the original quote letter that went with that annex breakdown that I gave you, that I showed you. Against, I've blotted out his address, and this basically just states that with reference to Schedule 1 of the annex, Schedule 1 reflects the background to my quotations for the conduit lighting work in the windows, but I forgot to include the switching, which I've included along with Schedule 2, therefore. Switching was just an RF switch. Schedule 2 reflects the background of my quotations for replacing 3 pendants with converter plates and LED downlighters as close to those already possible. To summarise, therefore, and then I give the prices in yellow. Schedule 1, industrial themed lighting for windows, a new protected circuit from fuse box. Cost of providing times 17 lights for windows using conduit styled as the test piece you received, including labour but excluding bulbs, from 1150 to 1408. Add roughly 100 for the RF switching, in case deduct the same from Schedule 2 if you wish. And then you get a price for the other part. And if you want to change anything here, now that you know the kind of cost involved, please just arrange for a phone call or see me at the shop when you can. Many thanks. And that's the quoting process. A better way of doing it, then let me know, because I'm interested to know. That's what we all do, is look at each other's quoting processes and ways of charging. It all goes to help to improve the service to customers, I think. Unless, of course, you're thinking that it's going to create some kind of cartel where everyone goes for the highest possible price. I don't think that really happens. I genuinely usually underquote for what then goes into the bills for whenever I do, and I usually do underquote. But I'm very wary, as I think everyone is, of asking for too much money, because it's going to put the customer off. So when you quote, you know, it's a very competitive thing to be doing. And also, you know, if you work through everything in your mind and you work through it in a schedule and you itemize the components you're going to need, the componentry, and then you work out what that type of labour should cost you, you always come up, or at least I do, I always come up under on the labour, because there are things that you can't foresee. There's not only that, there's the stupidity factor, which you always underestimate. So as for speed of delivery, if I'm going to be rushed, what I tend to do is put more time in the evenings than just add it straight onto the invoice. Because if you've quoted, unless you're going to put a variation order in, you can't just say it took me longer than I thought it was going to. If it's something that isn't highlighted at the beginning and that you come across, then basically what I do is I either don't charge for what I then do until I give a variation order, or I stop at that point on those items that I'm working on that needs that extra work. I create a variation order, which is a formal letter with a quotation for the work, and I draw the customer's attention to it for agreement before I go on. What I did was I put up, using Unistrut, I put up this shelf here, and I used to keep all my Milwaukee stuff up there, but I don't anymore because I keep it in a vault now. I've got a steel lockable safe, and for all that, and it's not kept on site any longer. It's old empty cases. That's what it's got up there at the moment. Empty tool cases. I used to keep my grinder in this, and I do have one or two sort of cheaper tools which I keep here. But this place is I'm not usually sleeping here, so over here I have oscilloscopes to see. I only use them for looking at phase shift and the wave formations on the different when you're programming VFDs, variable frequency drives. This is a very large, nice 18-inch, or I think 17-inch, I think, faceplate that goes on the Harrison. Then this is my milling machine here, which has a DRO on it. Yeah, the electrics took me a bit of sorting out. They've got these old ceramic fuse holders, and then all the conductors in this are green in colour, so that doesn't really give you much of a help. And basically the problem with this was sorting out a neutral, because it's three-phase and neutral, and just making sure that I didn't need to use the neutral anymore, because the VFD there, or my signal generator, which is this one, it's 10 horsepower, obviously doesn't have a neutral facility on it. In here I have welding kits, an Arga oxypropane torch. I've got a Makita big router, which I hardly ever use for electrical stuff, but I can if I need to. But it wouldn't be in the van ever. And then just a cheapy orbital sander, which again I don't carry with me, I maybe should. And this is spare bits that I buy from Lidl's, which I use as and when. Here's my stock cupboard. So I've got RF switches here, RF switch receivers and transmitters. I've got grind discs here, which I got on a deal from Screwfix. I've got some Zano 1 to 10 volts there, a couple of downlight drivers for the downlights that I've used before now. And this thing's a very good tool. This is I'm going to show you this tool. This is the Vera, should I say, Tool Check Plus, available for 70 quid thereabouts. Well worth getting, and I'll cover that on another occasion. I have done a tool talk on that, but again, it was out of focus, so not much good. We've got some roofing tray bolts and nuts, and spare. This is something I use a lot of, my trusty resin anchoring and all its nozzles. spare ones. It's good that I've seen that because I'm running out of them in the van. All just new stuff anyway, stuff I need. Up above my desk, I have space which I keep normally for. This box here will have trunking parts, those plates that you always run out of, the back plates for the trunking lids, the back plates for them. I've got loads of them in there. Don't ask me how I got hold of them, I can't remember. But then fan parts, ducting, there's not much up there at the moment. They're end caps for Unistrut, there's more trunking parts there. Then spares for the Stanley Fatmax boxes I've got in the van. There'll be things like fastenings and so on in there, they're spares. Then I've got Copex in here. Oh no, I've got junction boxes and adaptable boxes in there and Copex in there. And then a couple of Fatmax boxes that don't stay on the van because they're all my CCTV and data tools. And you've just seen your way around the workshop without any of these lights on. So I do have actual work lights that I can use down there, which I've put in downlights. I've put into this tray, and this is for lighting all machinery up. So you can see it lights the mill table up, it lights the Myford up nicely, and the old Harrison, which is still undergoing some level of renovation. I'll put a new tool post on, which I had to make parts for, and the compound slide there needs parts for it as well, which I've got, but they just need machining and slightly changing. Hopefully I've solved the focusing problem by going into the menu and the camera, and sorry, it was really beginning to get on my nerves, and so much of this footage you're looking at is just out of focus and rubbish. Thank you for watching. I've covered a little bit of the quoting process on one of the quotes that I've done for this week, and there are two others which were smaller, and I've shown you a bit of my storage and why I have problems storing stuff. There's a load more reference material I didn't cover, I've got the building regs, obviously, but I've got building regs for ventilation and fan systems and so on, and a lot of catalogues and other reference material which I use not very much, and a load of old files down there which I haven't covered. So thank you for watching, subscribe to the channel, and